What's going on? Welcome to another daily chat with the Dice Tower. Today I have a very special guest, Justin Jacobson from Restoration Games. What's going on, Justin?
Oh, not much. Just hanging out.
Oh man, I'm so stoked to do like a low-key stream. I streamed Board Game Breakfast today. I streamed a top 10 list, and it was very much like hands-on, like, okay, click this and do this and do that. With this, I just like press the button, and we're good to go and just hang out.
Good to go.
Awesome, man. Well, everybody feel free to ask questions in the chat, and we will try to get to some of those. Restoration Games, if you don't know, is a company that restores a bunch of awesome board games. They've done Downforce and Unmatched, and recently had a Kickstarter for Dark Tower, and they've done lots of different games. Stop Thief, and several others. Dinosaur Tea Party, you know.
Fireball
Just keep
Island.
going. Fireball Island. Oh, Fireball Island was huge. I should have had that at the top of my list.
Sorry.
There you go.
Conspiracy, the Solomon Gambit.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Nice. But yeah, I am super excited to have you on. I've had Justin on. I had Justin on my old podcast, and I've had Justin on my Spaces Between podcast as well. And so it was awesome to talk to you those times. So it'll be awesome to talk to you again. Let's see if I can find some awesome stuff here to ask. Come on, who doesn't know Restoration Games? That's what chat's saying. But yeah, they're saying hopefully this goes better than some of the streams earlier today. Yeah, like during the day when all of the kids are doing their online learning, it makes it crazy to try to run a stream, and internet bandwidth is at its peak. But now everybody's probably on Netflix, so we'll see.
There you go. Yeah, that was week when I started working from home. I invested in commercial grade internet. It was the best thing I've ever done. So.
Well, this one I'm sure you hear all the time. Hey, Justin, any games you really want to redo over?
What?
Who would think you would want to restore games, you know?
Yeah. It's funny. I get asked this question all the time. I hadn't thought about it in a while. Well, I said this before. So here's a little dish. I'm not giving you a name though. All right.
Okay.
But I think I've mentioned this before. There's a game that I played when I was a kid that I loved. I played the heck out of it. And I actually I got the rights to redo that game about 3 years ago, and I wanted to do it all by myself, and I've been sort of working on it a little bit for many years. You know what that's like, Roy.
I don't know what you're talking about at all.
So what we finally decided to do when they said one of the things we're going to do is we're sort of looking at ways we can sort of increase our visibility in the community and connecting with fans and things like that, especially under these current circumstances. And so one of the things I'm looking at doing is we're going to set up some sort of regular video thing where I'm going to be doing some designing in public of this game as I sort of move from my early design into late design or whatever. So nothing to announce yet officially, but when we do, that's the game I most want to do. It's my Great White Whale. I've been working on it for a long time, and I would love to do it. And obviously, we get recommendations for games. We know all the big titles, Hero Quest and Omega Virus and Thunder Road, and probably other ones I'm not thinking of. Crossbows and Catapults we get a lot.
For sure.
Stuff like that. So those are all ones that I'm always working to see what we can. I'm always hustling to see what we can do. So.
I always think it's interesting, like, how as a publisher does someone choose, or even as a designer, how much to talk about something before it's do you wait to have a big official announcement? I know with Dark Tower you announced it pretty early and then had play tests like crazy all over the place, which ended up you guys talked about Dark Tower for a long time before the Kickstarter actually came. I wonder if there's what the pros and cons to that are.
First of all, I'm the biggest blabbermouth on the team, and I'm constantly having to rein myself in. Rob's actually very conservative in that regard. He would like to sort of wait till the last minute to announce stuff, And, So usually we're a good balance. Usually he's a good influence on me in many ways. But so for something like Return to Dark Tower, there were a couple factors into why we ended up announcing early. First of all, we were worried that basically, so we had registered the trademark, and we were worried it was essentially going to get out anyway. So we figured we would get on top of it by announcing early. And then we knew we were going to do a Kickstarter, so we also wanted to build that community. We sort of took a page from Jamie Stegmaier with Scythe, for example. He's very public in doing that play testing and the development leading up to the Kickstarter, and worked pretty well for him. So that was something we sort of wanted to emulate as well. And then we've got other games. We announced Key to the Kingdom a year ago, and we just have been having a lot of difficulty sort of bringing that one to the finish line. So it's one that we actually wish we hadn't announced so early. We thought we were close, and it turned out that it just had some other issues that we're sort of back to the drawing. Not back to the drawing board, that's not the right phrase at all. But we're not close to finishing it yet, and especially because now in the interim we've been working on Return to Dark Tower. So I think it's best if you can hold off until you're pretty confident the design is done and the art. You got some art and some stuff you can start showing off, and then there's also you don't want to announce too early, because then a lot of times the interest will wane between when you announce and when you actually release the game, especially at least before all this happened, when games were coming out left and right, 3,000 games a year. You don't want to announce a game, get everyone excited, and then by the time you release it, there have been 100 other games released. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Lots of factors.
Elena asks, what process do you guys use for picking games to restore? Like, how do you decide which game?
So that's an interesting one. There's a lot of factors that go into it. It has to be one that we think we can obviously work out the rights for to whatever degree that might be necessary. The games are all different. Some games like Dinosaur Tea Party, based off an old game that was uncredited, and the rules were pretty basic. We weren't going to use any of the IP. We didn't want to use the trademark. So that one we just decided we could do. And then there have been other games, obviously, that we've had to work on much more diligently than that to try and get the necessary rights to bring those back. So that's obviously the first thing, is can we bring it? Can we even get the rights to do what we need to do to bring it back? And it might be a situation where we could do it without the full rights, but it wouldn't be in a way that would be appealing to us, and so we've decided not to do that.
Yeah.
And then there have been games, it's still got to be a good game. So for us, there's got to be something about the original game that's got some hook or some really unique feature that you can build a sort of a modern game around. Dark Tower's got the big electronic tower, Fireball Island's got the big marbles and the 3D island and stuff like that. But even something like Conspiracy, we thought had a really cool hook, and this sort of blind bidding was not something you see in other games. So we thought that would be really neat. And then we've had games that we've actually tried. We've had games that we thought we were going to do, and we got into them. We said, it's just not a very interesting game. And we put them back on the shelf and just decided not to do them. And then the final thing is always, can we make a viable product out of it too, right? Can we sell it at a reasonable price and at a reasonable cost that we can make a profit on it? Things like that. We've had games that we've looked at that have been too intricate, like something like Fireball Island is kind of banana pants, but we knew that there was enough interest there that we could put a price on it that we could, still make a profit on it, not lose money. Same with Dark Tower. Obviously, we had, got $150 MSRP on that thing. But that's the only way you can make that game. You can't make that a $70 version of Dark Tower. It just doesn't work. So
nice. Mark asks, when you need a break from work, what do you like to do? I guess we can both answer this question.
Well, I cook. I do almost all the cooking in the family. So Rob and I share that in common. Rob's a better chef than I am, but I hold my own. I do pretty well. But so I like to cook, and so usually I'll be working all day, and then I'll go make dinner, and that'll be kind of fun. I'm a huge Law and Order fan. So pretty much anytime I just have a few minutes, I'll just watch old episodes of Law and Order. There's like 450 episodes, like one of the longest running shows on television. So And there's 2 channels that pretty much 5 days a week are showing it 24 hours a day.
That's
So you can
crazy.
literally almost always just turn on an episode of Law and Order somewhere.
With your experience in like law, do you ever watch one of those and be like, ah, that'd never happen, or like, do you
No,
find like
it's
loopholes in
funny.
the show a little bit?
Yeah, it's funny, a little bit, but I will say Law and Order was actually really good about it. That's one of the things that I liked so much
Oh,
about it. Now,
nice.
the other, I'm talking about original Law and Order.
Gotcha.
Law and Order SVU did not like it all because they took out all the law stuff. It was all about
Mm,
there was very little bit. It was all about the police side of it.
gotcha.
And, the sexually explicit crimes or whatever. It was like, all right, whatever. It didn't really hold much appeal to me. The Law and Order Criminal Intent was very cool. But they had this thing that would drive my wife's a lawyer too, would drive us nuts when we were watching is we call it the incredible disappearing defense attorney. So every episode always ends up with Goran, Vincent D'Onofrio's character, like interrogating this person. He's like this master,
Mm,
mind person where you can get these people to confess their crimes. And they'll be in an interrogation room, and the defense attorney's there, and it always starts with the defense attorney like putting up a little bit of a fight or whatever. And then all of a sudden, Goran just gets going, and they never show the defense attorney again. And like any defense attorney would be like, "All right, that's it, we're leaving." Like if I'm not under arrest, why am I sitting here till you get my client to confess? Anyway, the original Law and Orders, Law and Order episodes, I don't know, whatever, were actually pretty well done. And some of the episodes were very interesting because I watch them and it'll be about some like esoteric point of law or whatever. And I'll be like, man, would lay people find this interesting? I mean, I'm enjoying it, but I can't see like, lay people getting really interested in like the disciplinary committee or whatever, that kind of stuff. So.
have you ever been like in the courtroom and been like, all right, I'm gonna pull an episode 37 right here? I'm just kidding.
Never did criminal law, so no.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, there's things that are different. Most notably, like everything's compressed, right? Because they can't show everything. So, like, the closing argument, like Jack McCoy will give this great closing argument that's like 2 minutes long, and like normally closing argument in like a murder trial would be like an hour and a half or something,
Mm.
So, but it's cool. I actually like this, and I also like the really cool thing I like about it is because it was on so long, is you can sort of track like what was going on, and because their big thing was all the episodes were ripped from the headlines, is you can sort of it brings you back to like what was going on during that time. So it'd be like an episode that takes place during like the AIDS epidemic, or one that takes place when after 9/11, like those had a very different tack, or an organized crime was big, or stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons I like it. Is it's sort of like a snapshot of American history, at least in New York. So, what about you? What do you do, Roy, for fun?
Um, it's funny. I work making YouTube videos and editing YouTube videos, but I mean, besides the normal stuff of hanging out with my wife and kids and doing silly stuff and having fun with them, I'm doing stuff by myself, it's normally a lot of consuming more YouTube or like watch it. Like I'll go and check like how our videos are doing for fun, not actually just for work. Like I just go and be like, oh, let me read the comments of this thing or read the comments of that, just because I find that stuff interesting, or like see what's going on. And I know everybody says, oh, don't read the comments, like the comments are bad, and I'm like, some of those top 10 lists where people say crazy stuff, it's just fun to go back and read how people react to the different things we put out there. It's just a lot of fun. Like, oh my goodness, they said they hate this game. It's like, or like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this person said that game was essential. Or like, it's just so funny because we did an essential games list, me, Jason, and Mike, and there were just people in the comments that were like, Roy has no idea what he's talking about, and then another person's like, Roy's like the best, his picks are all the best, and then somebody will be like, Mike's crazy, and then Jason's crazy, Jason's the best. I don't know, it's just funny to see people with different taste having completely different reactions to the content. It's just a lot of fun.
That's why the top 10s are popular.
Oh yeah.
It's funny, I'm on BGG a lot, and people are always like most of the designers and publishers, and they're like, oh man, how do you go over to BGG? And I was like, I actually like it, I mean, and we always joke that it's sort of like my superpower is like dealing with annoying people on the internet, basically, and really what it comes from is practicing law for 20 years. And I said, people on the internet aren't half as bad as some of the opposing attorneys I had to deal with. So,
If I ever want to feel bad, I go over to Reddit and check that out, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that'll level my head real good. So, oh man, but it's fun. Like, I consume and like watch a lot of science videos and space videos too. So I don't know, I find that stuff interesting as well. So good stuff. Let's see. Hey Justin, any chance you will ever get an expansion for Downforce that models real world racetracks? I love the maps so far. I would love to see Monte Carlo, for example.
oh, yeah, I was thinking like a real world racetrack, like that. You mean like an oval? So the original Daytona 500 was a game that one of the versions of the game that Downforce is based on is basically just an oval track,
Mm-hmm.
which is it's not super exciting. I forget they put in like passing lanes and stuff that were interesting. Um, I will say this. So in order to do something like that, we would have to get a license because we can't. Those are, you know, protected by intellectual property rights too. Certainly the names and stuff as well.
Oh, for sure.
So interestingly enough, we actually were very close to doing something like that, and it did not come to fruition. I guess I can't say much more than that.
Yeah, but it can be sold in all the gift shops.
I know. We actually had some racing organization, like one of these small sort of regional racing associations. They bought a bunch of games from us to sell at their events and things. I think, I don't know. That was a couple years ago. I mean, I'd like to do something like that. I think it'd be cool, but it's hard to justify a license for some of that stuff because there's not a lot of overlap between like people who would be big Monte Carlo fans but maybe I don't know. It depends. We tried.
Which animal should be in more games? Kangaroos or otters? That's two different questions.
I mean, you could have said otters and any other animal. Like otters is my number one favorite animal.
I'll agree with otters. Otters are pretty cool.
They're the cutest.
Man, if there was a game just based around otters, that would be pretty solid. There's so many things you could do.
A cheesy pun, right? Like, I don't know, you otter be in pictures or something. Something. It would have a bad pun title.
Either otters or honey badgers.
Otters. Otters, hands down.
Let's see. There's so many questions here.
It's funny. I've actually I wouldn't say I've gotten close, but I've looked into the logistics of having pet otters.
Wow. The Otter King. That's what we're going to call you, Justin.
There you go.
When you start your exotic otter park.
Not as good as Board Game Necromancer, but it's okay.
You're right, yeah. It'd be hard to. I mean, unless they were undead otters, which that would be really awkward.
Yes.
What games other than your own have you been liking lately?
Well, lately, I don't know much. We were talking. I've been playing Machikoro Legacy with my kids, and I've been enjoying that. It's a nice twist on the original game, which is fine. I mean, I'm not a huge Machikoro fan, but Legacy was fun. It added some nice twists and stuff, and keeps shaking the game up, which is kind of good because Machikoro can get a little, samey. My group, we played a ton of Gloomhaven, so that's I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. It's funny. It's my D&D group, and we actually took to Gloomhaven because I was the DM and I got kind of sick of doing the prep work. I didn't have a lot of time to do all the prep work to run the sessions, and so we sort of started playing Gloomhaven. It sort of replaced D&D for us, so I'm excited about Frosthaven too. But we actually, because of the virus, we're going to try and do D&D on Roll20.
Oh, nice.
We've never played online before. I've never used Roll20 before, so we're going to give it a go.
Do you do a lot of stuff on the table in your group, or is it more theater of the mind stuff?
No, we're pretty tactical. My group likes tactical.
Gotcha.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why Gloomhaven worked for us is, you lose the role playing, obviously.
Right.
But there's enough of that at the table, just the social interaction, like even if there's not much of a story behind it. So, and then
I don't know. I like both styles of D&D. Like I enjoy like the whole tactical aspect, but I also sometimes enjoy playing just the straight role playing, straight trying to figure out how to do stuff. It makes it a little bit more tricky for the DM sometimes, though.
yeah. So what's funny is when we started doing Gloomhaven to do the tactical stuff, someone else in my group started DMing D&D by email, where it's just role playing.
Oh,
And we've been doing that for about a year now. And the idea is we're going to do this until our characters we're essentially developing the backstory for our characters for when we are going to actually start running the campaign.
gotcha.
And it's my
crazy.
favorite character I've ever played. You know, people like to talk about their D&D characters.
Mm-hmm.
This is my favorite D&D, and I've been playing D&D since 76 or 78. And I'm a long time. And my favorite character of all time is in this. So what I did is, I hope nobody in my group's listening. I don't they watch. He's a 20th level rogue, and he was the head of like the Thieves Guild. Like he was one of the most notorious criminal bosses in this whole land, right? And he got betrayed by somebody in his Thieves Guild, and they like beat him up and poisoned him and cut his Thieves Guild ring off his finger and branded him as a traitor. And they thought they killed him and they dumped him in the ocean or whatever. But he didn't die. And so he washes up on shore. It's sort of like a little bit of a Jason Bourne thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that he's like all beat up. So he was like, his attributes are reduced and he doesn't remember all the skills that he has. He's got this amnesia. And so he's effectively level 1, even though he's level 20. And so when he levels up, it's just him remembering how to do things. Like all the skills he gets are him like remembering how to sneak attack and stuff like that. So it's been fun.
My favorite thing in like a D&D game is as a DM coming out with these like crazy hooks and things like that. Like, oh my goodness, this is a thing that when the players find out, oh my goodness. And the worst thing ever is when the campaign ends or the group can't get back together enough for it to actually come to fruition. Sure. It's like you're like leaving all these little hints and all these things that are happening in the game, and then you stop meeting before you actually get to tell them everything. It's like, no!
Pretty universal experience, I think.
Yeah, but oh man, I miss D&D sometimes. It's just hard to get a group together.
Yeah.
Justin, can you give us any insights on how accurate the Ace Attorney games are?
I don't know that I heard about them, but I have not played them.
All I know is it's like objection in that game a lot. So there's that.
Okay. I mean, my daughter's playing it, but I don't know. Other than that, I don't know anything about it. Should I check it out? I need a recommendation.
Maybe. I mean, if you're into the law stuff, that makes sense. It's like it might be too real. It might be like, oh, this is work.
I mean, it's funny. There's that Lawyer Up game too. That's right now, which supposedly looks pretty good. It's supposedly
I know Rodney came into the studio and was raving about it, so Tom's excited about it.
Good things about it. It just doesn't really seem like it's. I mean, it's a lawyer theme, so like,
right. It's very abstracted, I guess.
Right.
Since you like cooking, what is your favorite cooking themed game?
Do I have one? I can't think of any. Kitchen Rush, I have not played it. What other cooking themed games are there?
I know like cooking themed makes it like really narrow because I mean there's lots of games about food, which makes it broader.
Sushi Go, I guess. I don't know.
I know. I love the Sushi Party and Sushi Go games. So
I don't like sushi.
What?
We have. I know.
Riot.
We have recipes in our rule book for Dinosaur Tea Party. I did the cucumber sandwich recipe.
I'm back here and all the questions about Law and Order stuff. Who's your favorite Law and Order character and why?
Oh man. Okay. Let's get to it. I have this dream of one day ranking every Law and Order attorney who's ever
top
been
10 Law and Order attorneys.
There have probably been about, I want to say like 350 attorneys or something on the show.
You could do like a tier list. I was trying to talk Tom into doing some tier lists. You could be like, this is a rank attorney, this is an F rank attorney.
Right. They have, what's cool is they continue them through the series too, though. So like if they'll have this guy who's like a defense attorney in one episode, and then like 2 years later he'll be back and he's still a defense attorney, but he's the same character and all very cool stuff. My favorite attorney, my favorite character on the show is probably Lenny Briscoe. He had the original, like he was the best of the quips, the opening scene quips, I would say, and very interesting character. Jewish, had a cool backstory with his daughter, and that actually played out really. So one of the things I like about the show is they put just a little bit of the character. Like they didn't make a big deal about the characters. Like a lot of these shows, even SVU and things like that, but a lot of the other shows, it was a lot of time was spent on like their personal lives and blah blah blah. I don't care about that. I want the cases, Yeah. But they will put just a little bit, like it'd be like a few minutes every episode of something going on, and it's just enough if you watch the whole series that the characters really get a lot of depth to them, even though they're not spending a lot of time on it. And Lenny Briscoe's character was always very interesting to me.
This is a question for me, I guess, but you can also answer if you have an experience with this game. Roy, did you ever get a chance to play Gaslands or make more 3D printed stuff for it? I really wanted to play Gaslands because it looks so cool, and I painted up some cars, and I got the guys in the studio to put some cars together, but I never actually ended up like playing a full game of it. And the people that were excited to play, Sam and Chris, both moved away because they were my miniatures game guys. So now I don't know if I get to play. There are some people in the game group that like Gaslands, and I had an opportunity to play with them, but I think I was playtesting a game or something during that time, so I didn't actually get a chance to play with those guys either, but hopefully someday I'll get a chance to play Gaslands. Have you seen that game?
I have Gaslands, and I also have never played it. It looks very cool.
Have you painted up cars too?
I didn't get that far. Painting is something I love to paint, miniatures. I just never have the time. It's always like the fifth thing on my list, so
the thing I like about Gaslands is that it just uses like those 99-cent Hot Wheels or Matchbox cars, and you just throw some rust on them. And I had 3D printed up like some guns and things like that I could like glue onto them. It's like put some rust on them, put some guns on them, you're good to go. So yeah. I don't know. Someday, if only there was time to play all of these games. Now everybody's talking about otters, where I'm at in the thing. Somebody was saying, I guess now is the perfect time for you to run D&D with the Dice Tower. You did. Yeah. You ran a couple of games for the guys a while back, right?
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
I don't think that wasn't part of the Kickstarter. Was it part of the Kickstarter? Yeah, it wasn't part of the Kickstarter this year.
Let's see if I can read this properly. Trevor. Justin, have you ever tried High Treason, The Trails of Louis Riel? I hope I said that right.
Louis Riel.
Louis Riel.
I have not. It's a solo game, I think, by, I'm blanking. They're the ones that do, like, Nemo's War. I'm totally blanking on the name. Anyway, I think that's them. I have not tried it. I really want to, though. I've heard very good things about it. So I did. I played a decent amount of solo gaming because, usually when I play, that's what I'm doing. I don't have enough time to learn new games and then play them. Like I played one game of Marvel. What's it called? Champions, right?
Yes.
Champions. Yeah. And I don't think I quite got it, but it was like a learning game, and I haven't had a chance to play it again since.
Yeah. So. I actually just got my Thor deck for Marvel Champions. That's the most recent game that I've played.
Did you see the announcement today?
Oh yeah, they had spoiled that a little bit at Gamma, so it had been leaked before. But yeah, I pre-ordered it because it's so hard to get a hold of. So I've already pre-ordered the thing. I don't know. The other guys in the studio say I'm addicted, but I'll leave that for the internet to determine whether that's true or not. Jordan says, Roy, I'd love to see some tier list on the channel. Let's make it happen. I tried to talk Tom into doing some. There's like these lists that like a while back were like really hot on the internet where you'd have like S tier, A tier, B, C, D, E, F tier, and you'd like rank things like fast food restaurants and all that stuff. And I was trying to get Tom to do some like board game tier lists. I thought it would have been hilarious.
He wasn't having it. He's too old. Tom's old. I can say that because I'm a lot older than Tom. But I'll be 50 in June.
Tom's not a big a fan of ideas. He's more a fan of like action. So it's like if I showed it to him in action, it would be more of a thing as opposed to being like, oh yeah, that's cute, you know. So.
Well, yeah, he probably has he's got his little pad of like 100 ideas. I think.
Oh yeah, and I mean we definitely not in any shortage of content on the Dice Tower channel. I don't know if you've checked that out before.
High Treason is 2-player, right? But I knew it's a game about a famous trial. Yeah, I think I knew it was 2-player. That's right. I was thinking of they have another game. Well, Nemo's weren't. I think it's by them. Anyway, yeah. I saw a question in there.
Yeah, I don't know if I should read that one. Marco says, "Yes, I finally caught a live stream chat. I'm excited. Hype." But yeah, feel free to throw us any questions so we can hit those up so we don't have to read Jordan's questions that are very controversial. Goodness. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't mind that.
Okay, I'll read it then.
How do you feel about you stealing his company idea?
They're not the same.
I was going to say, I don't think I didn't steal that idea. I mean, you know, and I don't even think, I mean, people are doing reprints, like he's doing reprints. And other people have done reprints, and that's one thing.
Restoration Games doesn't do reprints.
You don't do reprints, that's right. And so our thing was very much more like mass market games. Mm. You know, it was a good idea. I don't know what to say. Like, I have one good idea in my life.
I think it's worked out pretty well for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you tried Thor solo? I did a Thor leadership deck, and it was brutal. I played
brutal
Thor.
Good or brutal bad?
I'm not quite sure. Thor is kind of known as being like not super easy to do solo, and he very much relies on like minions coming out of the deck to be able to draw more cards. But then he has cards that pull minions out of the deck, but then you have to deal with those minions, so they're like in your face. So like in multiplayer, you can kind of like not worry. He's also terrible at. There's like a whole threat thing that like if threat goes too high, you lose the game. He's terrible at dealing with that as well. I played Rhino twice. I lost the first time and then won the second time, but that was mostly because just got lucky. And then I've played with him against Green Goblin, and that worked out well because I was playing with the one where there's tons of minions, and I got to draw like lots of cards. I really enjoy the deck. It definitely is a little bit more difficult to solo, but it really depends on the bad guy you're fighting against. If there's more minions in the deck, it's more fun to play against. And I'll stop talking about it because people get mad. I posted a picture of it on Instagram, and people are like, I can't get that deck. I'm like, I'm sorry, don't blame me.
So while you're looking for questions, have you watched any good movies or TV shows lately that I should be checking out?
I hate to mention this like every Dice Tower chat, but the only thing I've watched recently is that Tiger King show.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's interesting. There's people getting arrested in it, so from like a lawyer standpoint, you'll be like, yep, lock them up. No, I'm just kidding. It's just like a crazy show about big cats, and hopefully the government shuts them all down. That would be cool. But anyway.
I actually have been watching it's a series that just started on HBO called The Plot Against America, and that is excellent. Man, is that good? It's by David Simon, who did The Wire. Is
it on a streaming service or?
It's you can get on HBO Go and or like I think it might be on Amazon. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I'm watching on HBO. It's on HBO now, actually. I think. Anyway, very very good movie. Or series. It's like I think it's like 6 or 8 episodes or whatever. Mm-hmm. They're about 3 episodes in, but it's really, really good.
Sarah Song says, Roy, I was a bit sad that Tom and Z didn't acknowledge the great picture of you and your daughter playing that game. Tom acknowledged it afterwards. Tom actually put that because the way our top 10s work is they have folders in like a Dropbox, and I specifically grab the pictures they give me and make a PowerPoint with it. So Tom actually put that in there because it was from a previous top 10 list that I had done. And I'm like, why did Tom pick a picture of me and my daughter playing this game? But I thought it was funny, and he said it was, he's like, oh yeah, afterwards. But during our remote top 10 list, they can't actually see the slides. So it's all weird and crazy while we're doing this stuff remote. So hopefully everybody's still enjoying the content as we make it. What game would you want a duel version that hasn't been done yet? I'm guessing like a 2-player version that has not been done yet.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good question. Look over at my games real quick, see if I can find anything.
Yeah, there's so many games I could think of that I'm not 100% sure what would be best.
That's a really interesting question. It's funny. I really like 2-player games. Like I like Rebellion and 1960. I play a lot of 2-player games with my daughter too.
Since they just made Cosmic Encounter Duel, I'm going to say Dune Duel. I don't know how that would work.
That'd be cool.
Dune is always known as like having to play with 6 players. Yeah, I don't know how they could shrink it down to a 2-player game, but maybe.
I was going to say, it's like contrary to the spirit of Dune, I guess. But yeah, that would be pretty cool. I don't know. Something like... that is an interesting question. Something like Blood Rage maybe would probably be a cool way to do a 2-player version of that.
Yeah, especially if they take the 7 Wonders Duel and do like the pyramid draft with Blood Rage cards. I love that pyramid draft.
Area control is tough with 2 players.
Yeah, it is a bit.
That's a good question. I'm going to think about that some more while I'm answering these other questions. Duel version. I mean, Downforce Duel would be cool. You can play with 2 players anyway, but it's just a straight 2-player version. That would be cool.
Fred asks, what company are you sourcing to do the miniatures for Dark Tower? I guess it's like Sculptor, or I'm not quite sure how exactly he means this.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm happy to talk about that. So Return to Dark Tower, which by the way is the pre-order is still open. So if you're interested, returntodarktower.com. It's open until April 10th. And we are just finalizing the minis now. We had a few that we had to tweak. They're sculpted by Punga Miniatures. They do the Unmatched miniatures for us. So we really
awesome.
They've been great to work with. They've actually got a Kickstarter coming up too. They're doing Vampires, I guess. I don't know. And then the manufacturing is actually for the miniatures is going to be done by, not official yet, but Panda, who does Unmatched first as well. So
gotcha. You always think I know probably normal people.
We do have a dartboard box in the Return to Dark Tower Kickstarter that is literally just a box of minis. So if you like painting minis, or if you want some weird stuff for D&D or something like that, you can check that out too. Because I know some people have bought just that. Like they're not interested in the Dark Tower game, but they just want those boxes of minis. So.
Oh, that is crazy. I never thought of that. That's sort of interesting. I always think like the whole manufacturing and like producing minis side of stuff is super interesting. I mean, I'm into 3D printing and all that stuff. I know probably most average board gamers are just like, I don't care. But I think it's interesting, like, oh man, like what does it mean? Like model count? Do you have to get to a certain number to make it like economically viable to make a mold and all that stuff? It's always super interesting to me.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting to me as well. It's one of the advantages of having Rob on the team. Obviously, he's been in the business for 20 years or whatever and knows a lot of that stuff. So there's all kinds of things where you do like side action and you put in gates so you can do different colors with the same mold and all kinds of stuff that I don't really honestly I still don't understand all. But I know one of the things we're doing though is we have a 4-pack for Unmatched coming out and a 2-pack and I forget how we're doing it, but we're combining those in one mold because you can get 6 like regular like hero-sized minis in one mold. And so what that does is it saves you, instead of having to get 2 molds, it's 1 mold. It's basically like it's one of the other things I just heard them calling it. It's called cutting. Did they cut steel yet? Which is like when they make the mold, because it's
Oh,
made out of
gotcha.
steel.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still made out of steel, but that's what they call it. They actually make this like actual mold that costs thousands of dollars
Mm-hmm.
to print those miniatures. And if you can get one of those instead of 2, you just saved yourself, a couple $1,000s. So
Do you think it's like the volume, like size of the miniature? Is it like you have the thing, and how many miniatures can we fit in this thing? And it's like if you have a bunch of big miniatures, you might not be able to fit as many as opposed to small miniatures. Is it that sort of thing?
yeah, that's definitely part of it. And then like how they're designed too. Like there's some where the injection has to come from 2 sides and stuff. And I don't know, it's a whole big thing.
Man, I'd love to see more content on like the manufacturing of board games. I know there's been like I think there was a video from one of the German factories.
Yeah.
They did a video where they were making a whole bunch of like showing you like, oh, this is making boxes and stuff. And I've seen stuff like from production lines a little bit, but it would be crazy. I mean, board game media, like it's hard to actually finance to make something like that. But it'd be really cool to like see more behind the scenes of like how the different pieces of board games are made.
Panda, who has done most
They do tons of stuff.
they've done most of our work. We also work with Longshore, who did Fireball Island for us. But Panda put out some videos on Twitter. I think if you probably they probably have a YouTube channel too or whatever. I know they've done some videos. They're a little bit shorter, but they were pretty interesting too. And watching them making cards and stuff like that and boards.
I really want to have somebody from Panda on my podcast at some point so I can talk about all the intricacies of manufacturing. That'd be fun.
I'm sure they would do that. I could probably put you in touch with somebody.
Yeah. Jordan asks an important question here: cookie dough or actual cookies? I'm going to go a little bit in between. Extremely fresh cookies that are still warm right out of the oven, so they're still a little bit like cookie dough, but they're still like gooey, so they're not like day old cookies or anything.
Yeah, I mean, like cookie dough is a nice treat every once in a while because you don't eat it that much. But I mean cookies. I would go cookies. My favorite cookie is the Malamar.
Huh.
Malamar.
I know Tom and Joe went to a cookie dough place in Las Vegas when we were out there for Dice Tower West, and they said it was just like a place where like ice cream. They just gave you scoops of cookie dough. Like it's like, here is a scoop of this flavor cookie dough. They said that like they ate it and it just like sunk into their stomach, and it was like it wrecked them a little bit.
It's too rich, right?
Yeah, for sure. What do you think about the Mario Kart variant for Downforce? What other racing-like games do you think people should add on top of Downforce to replace the cars?
I think it's great. I mean, just in general, I love when our fans are doing stuff like that. Like Unmatched, we've got people making variant decks, and I love it. And some of those are really good, too. I'm trying to think, like, I don't know, like a Speed Racer one, maybe?
Ooh, that would be cool.
I don't know. Or, you know what would be cool? I don't know. I wonder if there are any figures of this. Death Race 2000. That'd be cool. Like the original, not the Jason Statham one. Was a pretty good movie, but I don't think the cars were very interesting. Like the cars in the original one. Go with Death Race 2000.
Ross asks, what IP would you love to get for Unmatched? I'm sure you have things that you can't talk about, but if there was like a pie in the sky, crazy idea theme for Unmatched, what would it be?
So it's funny because we literally do this all the time with Unmatched in-house. Like routinely we'll be like, oh, this would be cool if we did this. And then like invariably when somebody just mentions something, then everyone else starts jumping with, what about this? Or what about this? And we just have these sessions. And it's funny because we work with Mondo on this, obviously, co-publication. And all the licensing stuff is through Tim Weish, is, I don't know his official title, but he handles their licensing or whatever. And he's always like, he's got to be like the stern father who's like, oh, settle down. So I guess my personal, I mentioned this one before. I would love to do a Jack Reacher deck, solo deck. I'm a huge Jack Reacher fan from the books and the movies, but I thought it would be good too. That'd be cool. I mean, someone did a Mandalorian fan deck that is amazing.
Oh, that's
like
crazy.
if you like Unmatched, you can find it pretty easily. I think if you go to like BGG, and I'm pretty sure there's a PDF you can download. Like it, and it's tight. Like the guy who did it clearly has sort of thought about the mechanics of it, and I haven't tested or anything, but it certainly seems in the ballpark as far as balanced and whatever. That one looked really cool. And it'd be kind of fun to do something Star Wars, just because that's sort of the original.
Oh yeah, the history of the game, right?
Yeah. And then any of the big IPs would be fun. But you never know. We might have something cooking.
I'm going to say Adventure Time. You should do Finn and Jake running around smashing people.
That would be cool.
I'm sure Rob Davio is going to be watching this very closely. Elena says, Justin, who is your favorite designer?
I mean, I like Rob's work. Like, I'm not sucking up to him. I mean, I've certainly liked. I like all the games he's done. Pandemic Legacy is like one of my favorite games of all time.
What about all those versions of Monopoly? Are those your favorite too?
Listen, the best version of Monopoly ever made was made by
Tropical
Rob.
Tycoon.
That's right. And I'm a big fan of Ignacci's. I mean, Robinson Crusoe is my top game of all time.
Oh, that's crazy.
And so I've always been a big fan of his work. Emerson does great stuff. Jeff, I like Jeff Engelstein's stuff. His stuff's always fun. I like Jeff because he's all over the place. Like he'll do, he's got this pinball rolling right. And he's got, all kinds of stuff. So I'm pretty. So I'm very much an omni gamer. I like heavy games and light games and all that. So there's very few games I don't like.
Elena said for me to answer the question as well. So I'm not sure. I haven't thought about it in a while. I know my go-to used to always be Corey Konezka, just because I'm a really big fan of Mansions of Madness. He worked a lot on the expansions for Twilight Imperium. He made Battlestar Galactica, and just Rebellion. And I mean, there's just so many, like, I don't know. I really enjoyed those style games and those like big epic games. So, but he's also recently he's made some games that I haven't been as much of a fan of. Like I immediately bought that unique game or whatever, and I was like, I wasn't as big of a fan of that. But I am excited to see what he comes out with next because I think he's spun off to make his own studio, so that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, I'm curious to see what he's been working. He's got something he's working on for sure. I mean, I'll be interested to see when he drops that.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see. There's definitely a lot of interesting things from that old design group of FFG that has spun off into all sorts of different areas, and now they're all doing their own thing, and it'll be interesting to see how they come out with games.
It's a big announcement coming. One of the developers on Keyforge. I don't think that dropped yet, though. So
don't be spoiling. Trevin just trolling in the chat saying, "What's your HBO Go password?" Stop it, Trevin. Stop it.
Like as if I remember it anyway.
Cool. Let's see. Let's see. Do you have to personally like a game to consider it for restoration? Would you ever redo a good game that you don't personally like?
Well, that's hard for me, like I said, because I like almost every game. So I honestly don't know. I haven't come up with that yet. But I know Rob certainly has worked on games that weren't in his wheelhouse, so to speak. I mean, that's he's a professional, so for him it's not a big deal. I think we'd certainly be less inclined to do something if we weren't excited about it. Like we've had games that we just. I'll give you a perfect example. There's a Euro game that we're looking at, very much a classical Euro that's been out of print for a while, and had an opportunity to do. And we're just like, it's great, but no one was excited about it, and so we just decided to pass on it. And I guess it's not so much that we wouldn't do it; it's just that you can't do every game anyway. So there's plenty of other games out there that we would be really jazzed to do. So why would we do some game that we weren't that excited about?
Marcos asks, has the Dice Tower ever thought about doing a top 10 on games that have the seal of approval / excellence, and where would they place them now in that rating? I feel like if we're going to do a top 10 list of games that have that, it's just like our top 10 list of all time. If you watch top 100, top 10 of top 100 is like that top 10. Because, I mean, I feel like almost all of those games, the individual person would rate them like an excellent. Like if your top 10 games aren't all rated 9 or 10 by you, then you're doing it wrong, or you just really don't like games. If you can't think of 10 games that are 9 or 10s, there's so many great games out there.
Yeah, I thought the question started, it was going to be end with like top 10 that have a seal approval excellence that are now like
going down. Tom does do a video series called Look Back every single week, and he'll go back and he changes his score on some of them. And he'll raise games up that he's played more and likes more, and he'll lower games that's just kind of like, this game kind of got replaced. And I've like fussed at him sometimes. I'm like, how could you lower your rating on this game? That game's amazing. And he's just kind of like, just don't. I'm like, it's because you hadn't played it. Like if you'd played it, you'd keep it up. But that's just me. That's behind the scenes. Maybe that's too much information. What is your favorite game that you think you will never play again?
Oh man, that's deep.
If it was a favorite game, why would I not play it again?
Huh. I don't know. There's got to be a clever answer to this. I know. That's an easy one, actually. Pandemic Legacy Season 1.
Oh, yeah. You don't think you would ever play with like a different group at any point? There's so many games to play.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I mean, I haven't played with my kids. I want to play with my kids, but I think I'm just going to play Season 2 with them. I haven't played Season 2 yet. So.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, those legacy games and stuff are an easy fill-in for that.
Yeah, I can't really think. I mean, in the spirit of the question, I can't really think of anything. I'm trying to think of something like
that's not consumable.
I don't know if I'll ever play Dune again. I don't know. I didn't buy the Dune version. What?
You're not going to play Dune with me? I thought we were playing at the retreat. What? Come on, man.
Oh, okay. Well, then at the retreat, I'll play. Sure.
I played at Dice Tower West, and it was a blast.
Hold on. I want to amend my prior answer. I can't believe I didn't think of this.
Mm-hmm.
IP for Unmatched that I want to do.
Okay.
Not going to happen, though. Although
gotcha.
Law & Order would be cool, too. But James Bond, I would love. I'm a huge James Bond fan. Mm-hmm. I would love to do James Bond. But that's not going to happen.
Well, yeah. It's so crazy. Like, I've seen so many publishers these days, like, work with other publishers who have IPs to make, like, versions of their games. It's so strange that I've seen a lot more of that happening in the industry. So it's like, those people have that IP. They already have that relationship with that company. They work together. But you guys already have a company that you do that with already through Mondo, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, Mondo, we had a sort of working relationship. Just knew that we just knew them and were sort of, I don't know, friends with them, kind of in general. Mm-hmm. And then we wanted to. I forget how they found out that we were doing this, basically. But we ended up just sort of talking about the idea of working with them.
Mm-hmm.
We've always really liked their work just in terms of their style, and we knew that we wanted to do something kind of elevated for Unmatched anyway. And then also we knew we wanted to get some IPs, and they've obviously done work with other IPs and a lot of licensing. So it was just a kind of, it fell into place, and it was just a perfect fit. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, we were lucky there.
Caitlin asks, what age would you first introduce games to a child, and what is a good game for doing so? There's a lot of good games that are really great for children. I think the first one that I ever started playing with my daughter, when she was 1. Like my son was 2 and my daughter was 1, and we started playing Go Away Monster, which is like this game where you pull little shapes out of a bag, and sometimes they're monsters, sometimes they're different bedroom furniture, and you put them on a little board. It's cooperative, so technically you're just trying to not pull all the monsters out of the bags before everybody fills up their stuff, but it's more like an activity than a game. But it taught like taking turns and like the tactile of like reaching your hand in a bag and pulling things out, and you get this cool little aspect of like placing things on a board, which is really cool and gave you this sense of like building. And then there was sharing, because if you pulled something you already had, like if you pulled a bed out, you already had a bed, you'd give it to another player. And my daughter played that being really young, because I could just like let her stick her hand in the bag. Granted, sometimes she would try to pull out more than one thing, but we just kind of play it up, and it was very casual, you know. So it leads to that. As far as like very first games go, I know My First Orchard is a good one for that too.
I don't think I have sort of ideas as that young, just because it wasn't something we were doing back then. My kids are 14 and 13 now. But Habba's obviously got a ton of games.
Oh, for sure.
And their stuff is top notch across the board. Like there's no such thing as a bad Habba game. So honestly,
I've talked about it.
Something in the age group that go to they have stuff listed by age and find something that looks cool, and you can't go wrong with that.
I had Dan Hughes on a podcast recently, and we talked a lot about kids games, because he does a lot of videos with his daughter Cora, and another great game for, they have to be a little bit older to be able to like talk and stuff. But Concept Kids is a really good one for like recognizing animals and stuff like that you can play with really young. But you have to be able to like know animals, you know. If you're like really young, it might be even, you know, harder. Let's see. People are saying all sorts of duels now. I'm probably like so far behind in the questions if they're talking about stuff like this. Jack from 24 would be awesome in Unmatched. Did you see that one?
I did see that one. I was thinking, if I were doing Jack Bauer, I would 100% make his deck be exactly 24 cards. And there'd be like one card which is just like all zeros on the clock or something and have some effect, but that like you lost the game if you didn't win the game when you played it or something like that. I don't know. It's so much fun to make Unmatched decks. Like you have no idea. And you know, we're working way ahead. Like we've got Buffy is done, and it's funny, we finished Buffy decks a few months ago, and they're working on the manufacturing side. And I forget, so we started plates. We got the new 2-pack we're working on, and now we're play testing against other people. And like, let's play it, test it against like some of the Buffy decks on the Buffy boards.
Yeah.
Oh man, I forgot how cool that deck was. So you go back and it's because it's all just one deck. Like you're not mixing, you're not building, you're not shuffling. It's just its own thing, and you can do whatever you want with it. We got punch board we can play with. We can put in some extra tokens, whatever it might be. Like for InGen, we put in these trap tokens or whatever. Yeah. So you really go into it and you say, like, what's the best way I can represent this character that people will be like, oh, this is so Jack Bauer, you know? and you just sort of think, like, what would that look like? And it's so much fun. Oh, man. So we got the 2-pack coming. We got we're working on Battle of Legends Volume 2. Can I say that? I guess it's no surprise since we had a Volume 1. But next year we'll have a Volume 2. And those decks are done, mostly. We're going to start testing those. And then we're starting to look ahead to like some other 4-packs for next year.
Oh, man. I can't wait till I have the game and like I bring it out to people and be like, who do you want to play? Like, I don't know. That's the part that's exciting to me because it's like you don't have to worry about like, oh, I built this deck this way or that way. You guys have done all the deck building and like you made the deck and designed it, and it's just like these are the characters, and hopefully they all like have a little bit of a chance of doing something really cool against each other. It's like which character do you want to play? You want to play a dinosaur? You want to play Dracula? You know, it's like what do you want to do? So it's going to be pretty interesting to see when it's all laid out.
Yeah, we are working. One of the things we're looking at is a storage solution as we start to get more sets, like a
nice
big box, something or other. So
I love that you guys are thinking about that because there's so many games that have been out for so long that like at a certain point it's like a burden to continue to have this game. It's like like how do I keep this game?
yeah.
So cool. Well, since we're coming towards the end of it, we should do some this or that. So everybody give us two things, and me and Justin will have to choose in between those two things. So throw tons of this or that things out there, and me and Justin will pick in between them what's the best. So yeah, we'll see those start to roll in when the chat actually catches up.
Yeah, I see somebody suggesting a Phoebe Buffet character for friends. I don't think so.
the friends 4-pack.
Funko is obviously the Funkoverse game is sort of it's at least adjacent to ours. I think you guys did a nice video on that comparison, and one of the things we look at, we see them doing like Kool-Aid Man and Golden Girls. I'm like, that's fun and all, but I honestly couldn't make a deck for the Kool-Aid Man. Like I could make a few cards, but a whole deck, not gonna happen. All right, we got some rolling in here.
Oh my goodness. I guess we're just going to do a bunch of these lightning round here. Spike or Angel? I'm not sure what that means. Is that from like
That's Buffy.
Oh.
I would say...
I haven't actually seen Buffy.
I hadn't either until I started working on the decks. It's a good show, though.
I'm going to say Angel because Angel sounds cool.
He is cool. They're both cool. Spike's fun. He's more fun, though. Angel's depressing.
Peanut butter or jelly?
Or I'll go with peanut butter.
If we're just talking about just plain...
Yeah, who's going to use just jelly?
Yeah, I guess it'd have to be peanut butter, too. And peanut butter with stuff is really good. Spock or Data? Data!
Oh, Spock.
I love Data. I don't think Data gets enough respect. It's just because he's not human. Like, come on, guys. Like, androids have feelings, too. Pears or pineapples?
Pineapple. I love pineapple.
I like pineapple, too. I'm going to go with pineapple. Brain from Inspector Gadget or Pinky and the Brain, I guess, is what this is supposed to be.
I'm too old. Do you see this hair? I'm like way too old for this. Come on.
I'll say Pinky and the Brain then.
I mean, I don't think I watched either of those at all, really. I mean, I'm familiar with them, but I have no preference, sorry.
I think this was already answered. Jack Bauer or James Bond? I'd say James Bond.
Yeah. I mean, I like Jack Bauer, don't get me wrong.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars for me. I mean, I like them both, but...
I like them both, and I'm probably not like the hugest fan of either. But I'm going to say Star Trek because, science fiction instead of science fantasy.
I mean, it's probably 50-50 for me, but...
Yeah.
And it's funny because I really like the new Star Trek movies, and it might just be that we've had a Star Wars movie more recently than a Star Trek movie.
Brian here is trying to get like actual advice for his game collection. He's saying Root or Cthulhu Wars if you're actually paying for it. I actually like both of these games a lot. They're both very asymmetrical as well.
Yeah, I would say Cthulhu Wars, though. I think it's a little more bombastic. Like, it depends. If you want, like, a real, sort of, I think Root's definitely a little bit heavier game, I would say.
Yeah, as far as complexity goes, and being able to teach people, it's probably more heavy. Cthulhu Wars has the whole, like, horror theme, and Root has, like, cutesy woodland animal uprising theme.
I do like Kyle's art a lot, too, though. So.
Yeah.
And later, they do amazing work, so...
I'm going to say Cthulhu Wars.
Can't go wrong. Maybe Root just because it's cheaper.
Splish or splash? I don't even know what that means. Maybe this is an otter question.
No, is it?
Splashing otters.
Splash. the movie, Tom Hanks.
Oh, gotcha.
I know.
Dice or cards? I'm gonna say dice. I love
Ooh.
dice.
Man, that is a tough
Especially, I mean, if you're talking about pips and just like regular numbers, no. Custom dice, yes. If just regular things, I would like cards better. But if they're custom dice, it's completely different.
You know, it's funny. Before I started working on Unmatched, I probably would have said dice. But I love the art for
For sure.
on the cards. I'm really into art now, like for the games. Like that's one of my favorite parts of my job. So I'm going to go with cards.
All right, Suzanne is going to be watching you closely for this question. Cake or pie?
I'm actually probably going to go with pie.
I would go with pie too, just because so many cakes, I can't get through the icing. Like, it's just too much for me. So I really like pies.
Well, for me, I like cake and I like pie. But with pie, I can do a fruit pie or like a chocolate chess pie or something, or crack pie. So you can kind of do both.
Salsa or guacamole?
Salsa. I don't actually like guacamole.
I'm with you there. I'm a salsa guy as well. The beach or the mountains?
I know
We live in Florida.
I know. Probably because I'm from Florida, but I'll say the mountains. I grew up at the beach. I'm, born and raised down here, so I think I'm just sick of the beach, honestly.
I like the beach. I had never gone to the beach until I was like in my teens.
Well, I was the exact opposite. I lived at the beach until I was in my teens.
Epic Duels or Armada Battle? I don't know. I haven't played Armada Battle. I don't know what that is.
Is that Star Wars Armada? Is that what
I don't know if that's the same thing or not.
I don't know what Armada Battle is.
Epic Duels, because then matched for the win.
Sure, that's right.
Pokemon or Digimon?
Neither. Again, too old.
Pokemon, the best. Oh, they redid it with the correct spelling. There we go. Bacon or sausage?
I'll go with sausage only because, again, like I can get breakfast sausage, but I can also get that includes hot dogs.
Does that include Italian sausage? Because definitely sausage.
Italian sausage, sure. A nice brat. I do like sausages quite a bit. Now that I'm a little hungry now.
G.I. Joe or Cobra?
Cobra's cooler, but I'll go with G.I. Joe. I mean, can't pick the villains.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I think Cobras look cooler though.
Yeah, they're definitely cool.
What? What is this even? Papa Smurf or any of the Snorks? I don't know what Snorks are.
I'm not. Again, also a little past my time. It's funny how young the people in the chat are. All the whippersnappers.
What kind of question is this? Stone Age or Space Age? Obviously, Space Age.
Oh, I thought I was talking about the game.
No, just as ages.
Space Age. Yes, I'll go with Space Age.
The future.
That's right.
I'm trying to figure out what questions would be good. Florida or North Carolina? I was from North Carolina, so that's where I was.
To law school, dude. I lived in North Carolina for 3 years. Which I like North Carolina a lot, but I'll go with Florida.
Yeah, the weather in Florida is just so much nicer. Pancakes or waffles?
Oh, man.
I like pancakes.
I like both. That's a tough one. You're going to make me pick. I'm going to go with pancakes because I like banana pancakes in particular. So
let's see if I can find anything really awesome to end on here. My wife's asking Animal Crossing or Doom. I'm like, I haven't played either of those games. Come on.
I haven't played either. I played the original Doom. That's how old I am.
She's playing Animal Crossing probably right now.
I'll say Animal Crossing does not interest me from what I've heard.
Okay, this one's good. Godzilla or King Kong?
I'll go with Godzilla.
Yeah, I agree. Godzilla. Giant lizards. I think we're going to need a bigger box.
That King Kong Skull Island reboot was very cool.
All right, I guess that's going to wrap this up for us. I want to say thank you to Justin for coming on for this Dice Tower chat.
Thank you.
definitely make sure to check out Restoration Games and all the exciting things they have coming up. And like he said, Pledge Manager for Dark Tower is still open, I guess, that sort of stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, thanks everybody for joining us and asking all sorts of awesome questions. We are doing these nightly at 9 p.m., so come back tomorrow for another Dice Tower chat. We're having all sorts of awesome guests and all sorts of interesting people on these things, so make sure to check those out. But thanks everybody for joining us, and hopefully you're all having a safe time with your families, and we're trying to keep things awesome and positive out here. So we'll see everybody on the next one. Bye.